But when we see the bright lights, then our hearts will take flight. So high, reaching up to the sky, it's time to fly. Hi there, and welcome to the next stop in your journey around the world with Travel in Tune. You've made it to sunny Australia. My name is Glenda Lloyd. I'm the Master Director of Brindabella Chorus, based in Canberra, Australia's capital city. Brindabella Chorus are the 2017 Harmony Classic Champions, and I'm really thrilled to be here with you today to talk to you about journeys, because that's what this series is about. We're taking a journey around the world, and what I want to talk to you about is how you can take your audience on a journey every time you sing for them.
Just a moment there, please. This is your captain speaking.
Go ahead, Captain.
Before we can go any further, we need to do a safety demonstration.
Well, but we're landing in Australia. We're not taking off.
Well, you can't be too careful. Just run them through it.
Oh, well, okay then. Let's watch the safety demonstration.
Now please give us your full attention as we present to you the safety demonstration.
Thanks for that. You're okay to proceed.
Audiences these days are much more sophisticated than they used to be. Entertainment is at their fingertips at any moment. On their devices, on their telephones, they can access the internet, Netflix, anything that they want to find out is right there and ready for them. So we have to make sure that we can meet up to that with entertainment. It's no longer enough to just sing well, although that helps. The audiences want to be taken on a journey and told a story. For this reason, Sweet Adeline's introduced the Open package and also the Finals package and the Harmony Classic a number of years ago. They recognised that we needed to learn some new skills in order to keep our audiences coming and remaining engaged. And so these great initiatives allowed us to bring in sets, dialogue, to sing music that we might not otherwise have chosen because it wasn't contestable, bring instruments on stage, have cameos. There's all these great things that we can do these days to make our performances much more interesting to listen to. So regardless of whether you're putting together a show or a finals package or an open contest set, there are a number of things you need to consider when you start planning. You need to consider what the time limit might be that you would have. Which songs are you going to sing? Are they songs that are already in your repertoire, or do you need to learn new ones? Is a contest song required? What dialogue do you need? And what kind of costumes and sets might you put together? All of this has to flow from the story. So how do we put together a good story? There are some great questions that we can ask ourselves to help ourselves figure out who we are and what's going on. So the first question is, who are you? Are you yourselves? Are you characters? Are you in a particular situation? And that leads into, where are you? Are you in the rehearsal hall? Are you at a train station? Are you on the moon? You need to have a location to base your story around. Why are you there? Were you magically teleported? Are you in a step of a journey? Is it just a regular rehearsal night? What is it that actually brought you to the place that you're in? Really importantly, what's the journey that you're on? What are you trying to achieve? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? And then coupled with that, what is the resolution of the issue, or the final step of the journey, or the measure of the achievement? And these last things are what a lot of our stories are missing. We're quite good at figuring out who we are. We're quite good at putting great costumes on stage, but often there isn't enough progression in there that our audiences really feel satisfied when we get to the end. So let's talk a bit more about having an issue to solve, a journey, or an achievement. So in looking for a story, we'll quite commonly look at what repertoire we already have available to us. And we say, what are all of these songs about? And I'll tell you that 99% of the songs that we sing are about love. And so we often then turn to stories about love. And what I've noticed over a number of years of watching shows and the Harmony Classic is that there are two main stories that people tell about love. I am lonely and need love. We'll help you find love. Yay, now I have love in my life. My life is perfect. Our job here is done. Let's celebrate. Or there's this story. I am with someone horrible who's really bad for me. We'll help you get rid of them. Yay, they are gone. Now my life is perfect. A job well done. Let's celebrate. Do these stories sound familiar to you? They should. They're the premise of just about every romantic comedy movie that's been put out by Hollywood for the last however many years. They're solid stories. We understand them when we resonate with them. But there can be something more to them, and there are other stories that we can tell as well. Let's consider some of the other story types that we could look at. A common story type is a journey, where you're traveling from one place to another. Brindabella Chorus took this approach when we planned our Harmony Classic package in 2017, and we chose a journey that we were actually going to go on ourselves, which was our journey from Canberra, where we live, to Las Vegas, where the contest was being held. We thought about what things might happen along the way. We introduced some tension when there was turbulence on the plane. We also introduced an achievement where we looked at how getting to the Harmony Classic was part of a lifelong dream. So we added in some other elements there that gave the audience something that they could relate to, which was also really important. Another great journey package that I saw a few years ago was Metro Nashville going on a camping trip. So they got together and they all went out camping, and they looked at all the things that could happen on a camping trip, and they framed their stories around that. So that's a journey story. Another thing you can do is look at unusual characters, and some of the most memorable packages that we've seen in the past have been around these. Another one of my favorites was the crayons, where they were talked about being blue, or it's not that easy being green. They were able to play on that. More recently, we've seen the Angry Birds, and the letters of the alphabet were just fantastic. But if you even go back to that letters of the alphabet package, they didn't just make clever puns about letters, although there were plenty of those involved in that as well. They also had a journey. They had a letter who felt like they didn't fit in, and the other letters helped them to fit in. So they still created an issue and a resolution, and those are the things that take us and keep us moving on. There have also been a number of packages put together about where you come from. So Irish packages, Australian packages, Swedish packages. These can all work really well as long as there's something more in the package other than just, I'm an Aussie mate. Yeah, we wear thongs, not flip-flops. There's got to be something more to it than that. There's still got to be a story, and you still have to take people somewhere. And the final one that I think has become even more popular in later years is taking an artist and putting their music together. Here's a package of Elvis songs. Here's a package of Beatles songs. And those can be great packages, but it has to be more to hold them together than just 5 Elvis songs or 5 Beatles songs. You look at the recent movie that was put out about Elton John's life, where they took all of Elton John's songs and they managed to weave them in so that the message of the story actually fit the story of his life. And you can do that with a themed package. You can find 5 songs by Queen and string them together, but the story that flows through them still has to be something more than just Queen is great, we love their music. Because after a while, it's just another song. So before we talk some more about what should be in our package, I'd like to take a moment to just talk about some of the things that really shouldn't be in your package. So when you're considering putting together a package, one of the things to consider is diversity and equality issues. So you shouldn't be making fun of any minority groups. You have to even be careful of making fun of yourself. A whole chorus of people where people say we're heavier than the average, singing a whole lot of songs about being fat women is actually not great for people in the audience to listen to, even though you might be making fun of yourself. The other thing to consider is making fun of other groups. Every country's got its own group of people that it makes fun of. In Australia, the people you make fun of traditionally are the Irish. But we couldn't really present a whole package of music about how the Irish are all in some way less than everybody else, particularly since if we presented that in the United States, lots of people are very proud of their Irish heritage. That would go down like the proverbial lead balloon, and it's just not appropriate. Another thing to consider is having cultural references that will not be understood by your audience. So if you're performing in your hometown, it might be great to put together a whole package that includes some jingles from commercials from the last 10 years. But if you're going to put that on stage in international, where you've got people from all around the world, those jokes will go straight over their head. You know, I could, for example, present a great package for you where I sang, the taste buds are on the top of your tongue, so turn your bread upside down, you can taste it, don't waste it, the great taste of daffodil. The Australian audiences all just got really excited because they know that I'm talking about a spread, and you turn your bread upside down. Everybody else in the audience just went, what was that? Which is what most of you probably did just then. So really consider whether or not those jokes are going to land with your audience. And the last two, which I think just about everybody's parents told them was a bad idea, is leave out politics and religion. We are a diverse organization. We have people of all political beliefs. We have people of all religious beliefs, including no religious beliefs. There are so many other things that we can sing about. Let's leave that for the time when we know that all of our audiences are going to be on board, and that's very difficult to achieve at any point. So let's get on to putting that story together. Now, for the purposes of the rest of the class, I'm going to focus on the idea that we're putting together a package that would be suitable for either the Harmony Classic or a Finals package, so a 15-minute package. All of this, though, could equally apply to an open contest set or to a show that you put on for local audiences. So what does our story need? Now, generally speaking, a package like that needs 4 to 5 songs, where one of them at least is a contestable piece of music. And the good way to structure it together is to say that the first song will set the scene for what the package is about. The last song will give us the resolution or the celebration, and the 2 or 3 songs in between are what actually take us on our journey along the way. We need to have some contrast while we're looking at those. So we want some rhythmic contrast. We need to have some ballads, up tunes, maybe put a swing number in, put in a number from a different musical genre. We also need to have some stylistic contrast. So maybe things that will allow us to alter the tone of our voices, to create different emotions. Maybe we look at major songs versus minor songs. Because something to consider is that over 15 minutes, our audiences can get noise fatigue. So we may be making the most fantastic ringing sound and just belting it out. But if that's all an audience gets for 15 minutes, no matter how wonderful it is, after a while, their brain just gets fuzzy and they don't listen to it anymore. So we need to make sure that we have that kind of contrast in place so that audiences get, oh, and here's something new, and here's something new, and they don't dig the program out of their purse to say, who's on next? So a great way for you to get a story that your whole ensemble can buy into is the idea of what I call a story storm. It's a brainstorming activity that you can do with your whole chorus or with a smaller subset of the chorus or just with your music team. And the idea is really to get way too many ideas and put them all out there on the table and then start to hone them down into what it is that you really want. So identify the situation that you want to be in and then write down all the recognizable features you can think of that goes with that and all the things that might commonly happen. So for this example, we're going to say that we are in a dog pound. And the contest song that we've already learnt that we want to use again is In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning. So those are the parameters that we're going to work with. So why don't you take 15 seconds now, pause this, whether you're doing this, watching this by yourself or with a group, and write down all the characteristics or just think in your head of what might occur at a dog pound. Go ahead. Did you think of some? I would love to hear what you've come up with, but unfortunately, without the use of time travel, we can't really do that right now. So I'll tell you what some of the ones were that I came up with, and you can see if any of ours matched. So thinking about a pound, I thought, is it only a dog pound? Might there be cats as well, or exotic pets like turtles and birds? Or maybe it's just dogs. There'd probably be a whole lot of pens, and those places tend to be a little bit cold and lonely if you've ever been to one. There'll be lots of different sections, maybe bigger dogs and smaller dogs, or happier dogs and crankier dogs might be in different parts of the pens. There might be a range of character types, so there might be those really happy dogs that just love everybody, or there might be those grumpy dogs that growl at people, or those little yappy dogs that just bark at everything, the wind, leaves, imaginary lights. And then those dogs might have different desires. Some of them might be just desperate to be being adopted. Some of them might really miss their owners and they're hoping that somebody's going to come back for them. Some of them might be planning a breakout. They're going to get out of there. There might be some competition between the animals. Who's the biggest? Who's the smallest? Who's the toughest? Who sings the best? And there might be relationships between the animals. They might have friends that they've made in the pound. They might have made factions and be against each other. Some of them might be in love. They might be fighting. There's all kinds of things that could be going on between the dogs in the pound. So we've got this huge pile of ideas, because if those are the ones that I just came up with in a few seconds, all of you came up with some as well. So imagine if we had 20, 40, 80 singers all together in a hall writing down these ideas. We'd come up with this huge wealth of material that we can use and then hone down. So for the next step, let's consider that contest song. So our contest song is Wee Small Hours of the Morning, which is about somebody who's awake in the middle of the night singing about how much they love somebody. It's a love song. They're all love songs. But what might happen in a dog pound that would cause that song to be sung? So maybe it's sung in the middle of the night by a dog that's missing their specific owner. Or maybe it's sung by the dog in the middle of the night to one of the other dogs. Or maybe it's a dog in the pound singing to their other pet that they used to live with, or their mother pet, or whatever. There's lots of different ways that we could use this song to be sung that would work within the scenario that we're looking at. Thinking about that, I've had to pick one. And so the one I've chosen is that this dog has been picked up by the pound. It has a wonderful family that it loves, but it got out somehow. And it's sitting in the pound. And so in the middle of the night, when all the other dogs are asleep and when the world is asleep, it will sing that song to its owners. Now, of course, you can't actually have all the other dogs be asleep and sing. So I suspect that in fact the dogs won't be asleep. All the dogs will sing with the lonely dog. See how the story just builds as you go along. So this first decision that we've made, which is that it's going to be a well-loved dog who's just been picked up by the pound and probably expects their owners to return the next day to get them, gives us the time period for our story. So our story starts sometime, probably about the time that the dog arrives at the pound, because scene changes aren't a thing for us. And then we'll probably end with the dog being picked up by the owners. That's our resolution. And sometime in the middle, that dog's going to sing the sad song about missing its owners. That's good, but it's probably not enough. So we need to fill this story up with some of the other things that might happen. And a great way to do that is to meet some of the other characters that we've got in the pound. So let's say that when that dog arrives, they get stories from the other dogs. How did you get here? What are you doing here? What's your role here in the pound? And all of a sudden, we've got all these other opportunities to tell more stories. So now let's think about what songs might a dog sing in a prison. So again, if you feel like it, you could pause and think of a few, and then I'll tell you some of the ones I thought of. Okay, so I have a list of some songs that might work for our dog pound. So here are some songs about prison. You might sing Jailhouse Rock by Elvis Presley. You might tap into Johnny Cash and sing Folsom Prison Blues. You might do the Cell Block Tango from Chicago. Or you might choose I Shot the Sheriff by Eric Clapton. Now this last one really appealed to me because I thought if I was a dog, I wouldn't shoot the sheriff. I'd bite the sheriff. I bit the sheriff, but I did not bite the deputy. There are also a whole lot of songs about freedom or escape that might be appropriate. So Queen's I Want to Break Free, Sting, If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free, Please Release Me. How about Home by Michael Bublé, because home's where you want to be when you escape. Or Runaway by Del Shannon. Again, this last one really appeals to me because if you think about a dog, they're going, I'm my little runaway, or why did I run away? Run, 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 or run away. So again, we've got another fun story to tell. And there is nothing audiences like more than a small play on words with a song that they already know, because then they start guessing what's going to happen next. What lyrics are they going to make those little tweaks to personalize them? How can we go ahead with that? And that really draws the audience in. So then maybe something can happen as a resolution. So somebody gets adopted. They might sing Feels Like Home. Country Roads Take Me Home. How much is that doggy in the window? There are some fun things that you can include there. And then finally, there might be some songs that you can put in when the owner shows up to collect their lost pet. So, Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves, I Feel Good by James Brown, Happy by Pharrell Williams, Celebration by Kool and the Gang, although that has been done to death. Please don't choose that one. And I Got a Feelin' by the Black Eyed Peas. Now again, of those, I thought I Feel Good by James Brown would be fun because there's lots of I feel good, do 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 do. All of those extra sounds you could incorporate some dog sounds. I feel good, do 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 do. Ruff. I knew that I would. Ow, 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 ow. So again, some great fun sounds and allowing you to explore some different tones as well in there. So just from those few things, there's a whole lot of great material that you can pull together to make a package. So from an idea of a location, we've pulled in all of these great potentials. We've found some songs, and now our package is kind of ready to go. How exciting. So let's look at how we might slot the songs in. The last thing that we didn't talk about with song choice is the use of original music. And this is something that some groups have started to use. I've used it for my own. I have written some songs for some other groups, and I know other groups are starting to employ songwriters to do this. Because at the moment, we often rely on the dialogue to tell the story, and then we sing the songs in between. When we choose the right songs, or even write original songs, all of a sudden, it's actually the songs that tell the story, and we don't have to wait for the dialogue for the story to advance. So it's another very powerful way of telling the story. So with this particular package, if I was putting it together, the songs I would use were, first song, I would either write or get someone to write for me some kind of an introduction song that says, I was lost and I was picked up by the pound and I'm very scared and now I'm here at the pound and oh no, what am I going to do? And what if all the other dogs hate me? And that kind of stuff, and just put that together. It doesn't have to be very long. In fact, it's really good if that song is just, say, a minute, but just enough that the audience settles in, looks at your costumes, feels what's going on and says, okay, all right, I know who we are, I know what we're doing, I'm now ready to accept the story. So there's a little bit of dialogue in there where we meet the other dogs, and then when we meet the other dogs, one of them sings, I bit the sheriff, he's the bad dog, okay, who came in, and he's the picked on dog. And then we meet this other kind of sad dog who sings runaway because they ran away, but they didn't mean to run away because there was a loud noise or something happened that was scary, and now they wish they could just go home. And then they all get ready for some beauty sleep so that they can get adopted in the morning. We sing Wee Small Hours in the morning, total tone change, lighting change. We sing beautifully, and then the family comes to get you, and we sing I Feel Good, and everybody gets a chance to howl as part of the song. And there we go. I think audiences have enjoyed our journey. So from this brainstorming activity, we can now put together something a bit more formal that will help us to really anchor into the story. So I've got this great format that I've picked up from a few different people along the way. I borrowed some stuff from G. Posgay, I borrowed some stuff from Lynn Smith, because that's what we do. We learn from one another. And you can then put together a really great summary and use that to make sure that all the decisions that you make about your package over the next however long all really relate back to that intrinsic story. So I'm going to put some of these resources up and make them available to you, but let me tell you a little bit about the script for this story that we've just written together. So the first thing we have is the premise. A lost dog, Sammy, arrives at the pound and is greeted by other dogs. She is scared as she's never been to the pound before. She learns a bit about the other dogs, and as the night goes on, she sings about how she misses her family. In the morning, her family come to get her, and she's very pleased to see them. So what stage decorations might come from that? All of a sudden, all of our decisions become quite easy. So with any kind of, whether it's the Harmony Classic or whether it's a show at home, you want to keep it simple but effective. So you might have a sign that says what the pound is, and we would probably call it Brindabella Pound, just like we had Brindabella Airlines. Let's just make it easy for your audiences, and also give them something to identify with later. You might have some large pet dishes, and you put them on lightweight boxes that will be easy for your chorus members to bring on stage with them. There might be some kind of amusing warning signs, like, beware of the biting dog or something like that. And so or maybe some blankets that you put on the floor. There doesn't have to be very much to set that scene. Now, costumes, of course, we've seen some great costumes on stage in the last few years. And it doesn't have to be very complicated. So you might put together a costume that is some lightweight cotton long sleeve shirts and pants in a range of brown, black, white or grey, and then paint patches on it to create likely dog markings. Get some dog paw slippers, make some hats and get some face paint. The other great thing about dog packages is that you don't have to do your hair, because you just stick a hat over the top. So this is looking like a good costume. I've then got a grid here that shows the script, and then for each of the sections, what it is that the chorus is supposed to be doing. So song 1 is the original song we've written, called At the Pound. And the action is that Sammy arrives at the pound and is scared. Some dogs are welcoming, some dogs are busy doing dog things, and some are standoffish. So you can get your chorus to sort of do some of these activities. Get them to try different things out and see what it is that you like. And they don't have to be doing the same thing, because anyone who's spent any amount of time with a group of dogs will know that they're not all doing the same thing at the same time. Unless a cat goes past, then they're all barking. But, there are usually a range of things that are going on. Then there's some conversation. And then during I Bit the Sheriff, the dog that bit the sheriff, and the chorus tell the story of being framed for biting. And maybe Sammy is just horrified by this story and quite terrified by it. So you can put together a whole lot of different ideas about what it is that the characters on stage are doing based on this great story that we've put together. I'm going to put this up. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but it gives you the idea of how you can then frame it. But what we've got now is we've got some really clear decisions that we can make and some really clear ideas, because we've got this great story and we've got this definite destination we can go on, and we know that the audiences are going to enjoy it. So let's just recap the story storm before we finish up. So step 1, identify the parameters of the story. You might have already chosen your contest song, so that has to go in there. So choose a situation. And if you don't even have one of those, this is something you could brainstorm with your group. Maybe we could be this, maybe we could be that. That inspiration might come from your contest song. And it's not just, we're looking for love. You could be looking for love in the dog pound, but you're not just looking for love. There's more story to tell than that. Step 2, write down all the features and the characteristics of that particular scenario. What are the things that you find in that location? What are the activities that always go on in that location? What are the things that can go wrong in that location? What are the things that can go right? Put all of those together to get a really broad set of possibilities for your story. Step 3, some song ideas. What songs that are already in your repertoire would apply to some of those different scenarios? What songs that are not in your repertoire, if you have time to learn new songs, can you think of that might fit into the story? And hopefully also would be good to sing at other performances around town. Find lots and lots of songs and see which one piques people's interest or imagination, or has those lyrics that you can just give a little tweak to in order to personalize them to make them suitable for your story. Step 4, which is refining your story, you might want to keep doing with the big group, or you might find it easier to take this down to just a smaller group, or even to do it as an individual, is to take all of those great ideas and pull out a story or a journey out of them. Find some things that they have in common, find some twists and turns that you can move through, and just meld and refine and shrink that down until you've got a really close, tight story, and start pulling out, yeah, that's the song we want to sing, that's the song we want to sing. Get that really neat, fine story. You might want to then take that story back to the chorus and say, hey, we've had all these great ideas. This is what we've come down to. Anyone want to add anything to that? Send me an email. Because at that point, you don't necessarily want the whole thing to explode out again, or maybe put something up on the wall that people can relate to, but re-engage with the chorus again and give them a bit of a go at feeling how that's going to work. The final step is to put all of that together and really codify exactly what it is that you want. Put down the songs, put down the dialogue, put down what the actions that are that the chorus might take, or what's the intent of the chorus. As they listen to that song, are they agreeing with it? Are they appalled by it? Are they supporting it? Are they part of telling the story? What's their role? And once you've got all of that cleaned up and put down into paper, sell that back to your group again. And what you should find is that everything that follows on from that is just clean and easy, because you know who you are, you know where you are, and you know what you're doing. But most importantly, what you've put together is a journey that your audience can take with you. And that's the most important thing in this, is that in the end of the day, although we spend most of the year entertaining ourselves in the rehearsal hall, our purpose is actually to entertain the audience. And we need to make sure that we are focused on them. And if we're going to do that, we have to pick them up and take them with us on a journey. So that brings us to the end of our journey today. I hope that you have a great next trip moving on with Travel in Tune to your next destination. But for today, it is g'day and see you later. But when we see the bright lights, then our hearts will take flight, so high, reaching up to the sky. It's time to